Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to Bible study this week. We're going to be taking a look at John chapter 15, verses 1 to 8. And this is the text about Jesus as the vine, as the true vine, and about God as the vine grower. There's lots of information in this text, so what I thought we could do is we'll read through it like we normally do, and we'll do some unpacking of the text, and of course, I've got some questions for us to reflect on as well. So this is John chapter 15, verses 1 to 8. Jesus said, I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine grower. He removes every branch in me that bears no fruit. Every branch that bears fruit he prunes to make it bear more fruit. You have already been cleansed by the word that I have spoken to you. Abide in me as I abide in you. Just as the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Those who abide in me and I in them bear much fruit, because apart from me you can do nothing. Whoever does not abide in me is thrown away, like a branch and withers. Such branches are gathered, thrown into the fire, and burned. If you abide in me and my words abide in you, ask for whatever you wish, and it will be done for you. My Father is glorified by this, that you bear much fruit and become my disciples. So, this is a really cool image, I think, that Jesus puts together for us in talking about him as the true vine and as God as the vine grower. This idea, I think, this really powerful image of how God has created everything, all of creation, each of us, and of course Jesus, and how um, Jesus is the vine. Jesus is the thing that keeps us all connected to one another, um, and that through that connection that we have with Jesus, we are given everything that we need to bear fruit. Um, that as the branches that we are tasked with going out in the world, fulfilling the greatest commandment of loving God and loving neighbor, and that when we do that, when we are able to stay connected with God, that we're able to bear much fruit, that we're able to spread the good news, that we're able to make sure that people know that they're loved, that we're able to spread a sense of joy, help people deepen their connection with God and with one another. And of course, that the deeper the connection we have with God, the stronger our foundation is, the stronger our faith is. And so I think that's a wonderful image. The word to me, one of the words to me that really kind of stands out this week is the word abide. And literally, what it means in the New Testament is to dwell or to live in. And so, really, what Jesus is saying here is he's saying that I live in you. Um, and then the converse is actually um, the same, is that we live in Jesus. And so this idea that it's through God's love that Jesus lives in us, and that makes our heart full, and that we also abide in that same sense of love. And we do that through our actions, of course. We do that in demonstrating our faith and living out our faith and our willingness and desire to respond to God's faithfulness by being faithful ourselves. This mutual sort of abiding relationship that occurs. Um, and so, one of the questions that I had for you about this text is, what do you think it means to abide in Jesus? What does that look like for you? To dwell in or to live in Jesus. So that's one of the questions. And one of the other things that I wanted to unpack starts in verse 6, where Jesus says, Whoever does not abide in me is thrown away like a branch and withers. Such branches are gathered, thrown into the fire, and burned. Um, Oftentimes this verse particularly is used as a way of um, warning people about what happens if they don't have a relationship with God. That ultimately what ends up happening is that they'll be judged by God, and God will cut them off from the vine and throw them in the fire and be burned. But actually, if you look at this text again, um, it's not about it's not about what God will do as much of it is what happens to us and what we do to ourselves as opposed to what God does to us. And so this idea of abiding, when you don't abide, when you don't respond to God abiding in you by abiding in God, what ends up happening to us is that we feel disconnected, right? We feel separate from or separated from God. Um, and then it's a really difficult time for us, and it makes it very difficult for us as believers, as Christians, then to bear fruit and to bear good fruit because we don't have that connectedness that we have with God. And so I'm wondering, as you reflect on your lives, and it could even be something that's happening present day for you, um, are there times in your life where you have struggled to abide, um, no matter what that may look like for you? And so, what does it look like to abide? And then, are there times when you've struggled to do that? Are you struggling to do that right now? Um, and particularly in reflecting back on some of the past times, what did God do um, during that time to help strengthen that relationship and to help you to be connected to the vine again? Spend some time and reflect on those things. I'd love to hear from you. Take some time and respond either on email or text message me, or you can send a message on Facebook, however you'd like to do that. And I'd love to hear what you have to say. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I will see you next week. Take care.